Well, good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, so I think we'll get started. Before we begin, I would just ask that everyone could just please ensure that your microphones are muted. By muting our microphones, we can try to eliminate some of the background noise and make sure that everyone can hear the presentation. Also, I'd just like to point out quickly that we are recording the presentation this evening, and the recording will be posted on the district's YouTube page so that anyone who is not able to join us this evening will still have access to the information. For those of you who I have not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Andrew Cook. I have the pleasure of serving as the superintendent for the Hartford Central School Districts. And as this is a interscholastic athletic meeting, I am also the Adirondack League president, which is the league in which the Hartford Central School Districts participate in. So I have a very vested interest in what we were talking about tonight. On behalf of all of our fall coaches, our middle school, high school principal, Mrs. Dupuy, our athletic director, Andrew Capone, and our nurse, Elisa Arlen, I'd just like to welcome everyone this evening and thank you for taking the time out of your evenings to join us as we prepare for the fall 2021 season. Given the uncertainty of the COVID pandemic that's still affecting us, I'm sure that there are a lot of questions on how the fall season will play out. We will do our best this evening to try and provide as many details as possible about the season and to answer all of your questions throughout the presentation. Please note there will be a time at the end of the presentation to ask any questions that we may have not answered as we go through this tonight. However, this will serve as a general overview of our fall sports seasons. Additional information regarding your child's specific program will be provided by the coaches as the season begins. So before we officially start, and all student athletes have to have an updated physical. Last year, the New York State Education Department waived the physical requirement. This year, all student athletes do have to have an updated physical, and it has to be as recent as August of 2020. If your student athlete has not had an updated physical since last August, I would encourage you to please schedule an appointment with your primary care physician as soon as possible to ensure that they have their physical in time for the season to begin. Additionally, students must have completed and turned in an updated health history index, the informed consent form, the concussion awareness form, the medical service permission, and if the student is considered high risk, if they have an existing medical condition, they need approval from the school physician as well. Please do not wait to turn these documents in. These documents must be received, reviewed, and approved by the district and the school physician before your student athlete can participate in athletics. This takes time. This is not something that you can turn in on the first day of practice and expect to practice. You need a couple days to be able to receive this information, process it, and grant permission. The sooner you can produce this, the sooner your student athlete will be able to participate. These documents are all available on the school website for download and submission. The season begins for varsity and JV sports on August 23rd. Modified teams are eligible to begin on August 30th. The varsity and JV soccer team will have their first practice on the 23rd from 8 to 10 a.m. JV and varsity volleyball will practice at the same time, 8 a.m. Golf is tentatively scheduled to start at 8 as well, and the cross-country team will begin their first practice at 9 a.m. Again, and I cannot stress this enough, in order to practice, all the required documentation and medical clearance, including the physical, have to be received and approved. Do not wait to the last minute. Make sure you get this done ahead of time so you can ensure that your student athlete can participate. Each year, there's always questions regarding playing time with interscholastic athletics. If you have a question on your child's playing time, please schedule an appointment with your coach. Do not approach your coach after a contest. Please schedule a time to meet with them and have a personal conversation about your child's time. It is important to remember the district's procedures on playing time, though. At the varsity level, this is a competitive level, and there is no guarantee of playing time. Coaches will play the student athletes who they believe best serve the competitiveness of the team. The JV level is also competitive, but there is a true effort on our coaches' parts to play everyone. Playing time would not be equal and is based on the student athlete's ability and up to the coach's discretion. However, there is an effort, but not a guarantee, for each student athlete to participate. At the modified level, we do our best to offer equal playing time for all student athletes. It is important to note, though, that each team may have specific rules about playing time in regards to missed practices, attitude, behavior, both on the court or in the field and in the school, which may alter a student's playing time. Board of Education policy number 527 contains the district's academic eligibility policy. According to this policy, students need to be in good academic standing in order to attend and participate extracurricular events. When report cards are issued, either at the 5-week progress interval or at the end of an academic quarter, if a student is failing 2 or 3 courses, they are placed on academic probation and must complete a re-eligibility process. This process includes receiving extra help from the teachers whose courses are being failed and having the teacher sign off on the session. This process is required each week. There's a specific form available in the middle school, high school office that the students complete each week and then turn in to Mrs. Dupuy. If a student does not complete this process, they are ineligible for that week. Students can receive extra help during 10th period on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, or any other time that is mutually agreed upon between the student and the teacher. These forms are due each Friday for the following week. If a student is failing 4 or more courses, they are ineligible to participate until the next marking period, pending that their grades improve. The district also has a daily attendance policy for our student athletes. Student athletes must be in attendance by 10 a.m. each day in order to participate. If a student athlete arrives to school after 10 a.m., they will need to provide a legal excuse explaining the tardiness. Allowable excuses include a doctor or dentist visit, a family emergency, a religious observation, or a previously approved educational activity. Excuses must have proper documentation that needs to be provided to the office upon arrival. Sleeping in or missing the bus are not legal excuses. Without an excuse, you will not be able to participate that day. Additionally, if a student is on out-of-school suspension or spends part of the day in in-school suspension, they are ineligible to attend or participate in that day's activities. Student athletes are required to utilize school transportation to and from away contests. If a parent needs to bring their child to an away contest, prior approval is required, and it needs to be a legitimate reason. If a student wishes to ride home from away contest with their parents, that is allowed, but prior approval must be obtained. A note should be sent in with your student athlete, who will then receive permission from Coach Capone and Mrs. Dupuy, who will sign off on that request. While on the bus, and this is a CDC mandate that we'll talk about next week with our reopening meeting, masks are required to be worn by all riders, including the driver on the bus, irregardless of vaccination status. Also on the bus, there is no eating or drinking, which was our policy last year as well. For the fall season, we are planning to allow advanced placement and dual sport participation. In order to participate in dual sports, you must be participating at the JV level or higher. These options are contingent upon the Department of Health recommendations and the county's transmission rate, and are subject to change if we increase into the high risk category. Additionally, it is important to note that our code of conduct, both the district's code of conduct and the athletic code of conduct, are active during the fall season. Student athletes who violate the rules of the district can be subject to disciplinary actions, including removal from the team. This is very important to note, especially for our new 7th grade students participating on the modified level or used to a youth commission that is separate from the district. Your behavior in school will now impact your ability to participate in interscholastic athletics. Since we are still in the middle of the COVID pandemic, there are additional COVID protocols that we have to follow this season. First, if Washington County enters what's considered the high transmission rate zone, high-risk activities may be canceled by the county. These would include soccer, volleyball, and within school, band and chorus. Cross country and golf are not considered high-risk activities and would most likely be able to continue, but this would be a discussion that we would have with the county, hopefully able to maintain our activities even though we're in that high-risk category. The CDC has recommended that player and coaches conduct screening tests during athletics. Washington County Department of Health is currently developing a plan to offer testing for schools, but it will not be ready for the start of the season. And at this time, we do not have any information on whether or not this will be required. Once more information is provided to the district from the county, we'll make sure to forward this to all of our parents and guardians. Additionally, we are asking that all student athletes provide their own supplies and that sharing of items, especially like water bottles and towels, is prohibited. Clothing, towels, and masks should be washed daily, and participants are encouraged to maintain proper hand hygiene, and coaches should remain socially distanced to the greatest extent possible. We will continue to offer the daily Raptor health screening, and parents are encouraged to complete this process daily. If your student is not feeling well, please do not send them to school or to practice. Even if it is a game day, please stay home and do not jeopardize your teammate. Any participant with one illness or symptom must continue to follow the New York State Department of Health COVID-19 flowchart that we enacted last year before returning to interscholastic athletics. If you have a question on the chart or what you need to do to have your child return after an illness, please feel free to contact Nurse Arlen. If there is an exposure on the team, from the information that we have been provided from the Washington County Department of Health, if your student athlete is fully vaccinated, they will not be required to quarantine as long as they are asymptomatic. If they are not showing any symptoms of illness, irregardless of the contact, fully vaccinated student athletes are not required to quarantine. This holds true for coaches as well. Vaccination is certainly a parent choice. There is no requirement from the New York State Department of Health or the New York State Education Department for students to be vaccinated. But if you are worried about a potential quarantine from participating in interscholastic athletics, either from the bus or an exposure at practice or a contest, the best way to ensure that your child will not be quarantined is for them to be vaccinated. More than likely, though, if there is an exposure at a practice or a game, if the student athletes or participants are unvaccinated, they will most likely be quarantined. Unvaccinated individuals will be quarantined by the Department of Health and will need medical clearance in order to return to the team after the period of quarantine. We are encouraging student athletes, those students who are eligible, to be vigilant in the daily health practices to ensure their availability. And we are working with the Washington County Department of Health on holding a vaccination clinic sometime in September at the school district. It is really important for our students to have a plan each day as to how they will spend their time after school. The district will have supervision for our students from 2:30 p.m. to 3:10 p.m. after school, although it is encouraged for students to make arrangements with their teachers to receive extra help or complete homework assignments. If the students are not receiving extra help, they can report to the cafeteria every day from 2:30 to 3:10. They can complete their homework, and then they can get changed and go to practice. If a student athlete does not have a practice immediately after school, for example, the varsity volleyball team is not practicing until 5 o'clock that day, student athletes should not stay at school after 3:10. We do not have supervision. They will need to make alternate arrangements, either going home and finding a ride back, going to a friend's house, something, in order to maintain proper supervision. The district will not be providing supervision after 3:10 each day. Now that we've looked at the general procedures, we can kind of dive down a little bit into each sport. So as you can see on the slide, our first sport is volleyball. We have listed the coaches and their email address in case you need to contact any of our coaches prior to the season or as the season is progressing. It is very important to note we are planning to have the gym available for volleyball this year. Last year was a very difficult season for our volleyball team, and they had to practice in our cafeteria. We're making every attempt possible to have our gym space available both for our PE classes and for our volleyball program. The cafeteria will not be available for practices, though. In the past, modified volleyball has often used the cafeteria as their primary practice location. That will be unavailable. That's going to be our primary eating area, and it will be filled with desks. This will require flexibility with our volleyball program, and the traditional times of varsity and JV practices may have to be altered once school begins in September. Since volleyball is an indoor sport, the Department of Health is requiring that masks must be worn at all times, both while participating and while on the bench. This includes both players and coaches, irregardless of their vaccination status. For soccer, again, you can see our coaches, and you will notice that we do not have a JV soccer coach listed. Currently, our signups will not allow for a JV program, so we're anticipating having a varsity program and a modified. Additionally, at this time, we only have 9 student athletes signed up for our modified soccer program. So we do need more student athletes to sign up to ensure a full team. So if you have students, if you have friends that are anticipating playing soccer that have not signed up yet, please make sure that they sign up and complete all the paperwork so that our modified team can be ready to roll once their season begins. Our soccer teams will be practicing outside, both on our main field and on our youth fields, both the upper hill field and the field down by the playground, and typically they practice at the same time. Since soccer is an outdoor sport, the CDC has said that outdoor activities do not require the use of a mask, so no mask will be required for any of our soccer participants. Our next slide combines our golf and cross-country programs. As a reminder, golf is merged with Fort Anne, so this is a combined program. We have the Fort Anne coaches' names listed for you. The golf team will be participating at the Hartford Greens. And again, since it's an outdoor activity, no masks will be required. We also have our cross-country coach listed, Coach Capone. We are working to host a cross-country race this year in Hartford, so we've been working hard to try and map out a course. Again, since that is an outdoor activity, masks are not required for any cross-country participation. I know that our parents have a lot of questions about spectators, and last year the spectators rules changed quite frequently. For outdoor events, spectators are allowed. There's no limit on spectators. The only caveat is that unvaccinated individuals are encouraged to wear a mask. The district is not tracking who is vaccinated and who is not vaccinated in terms of spectators. We're not asking that information when you arrive to the school. We're really trusting that people will be honest with us. If you are fully vaccinated at an outdoor event as a spectator, there's no masking requirement. If you are unvaccinated or below the vaccinated age, it is encouraged, because it is a large gathering, that spectators wear a mask. For indoor events, spectators will be allowed. As a league, we're still working through that process on how we are going to allow spectators to be in. It will be limited in capacity, but spectators will be required to wear a mask. Inside the K-12 buildings, the CDC has mandated masks, irregardless of vaccination status. So all spectators at our volleyball games will be required to wear a mask. Our indoor contest will also be streamed again this year, but now we have a partnership with the National Federation of High School Sports. The NFHS is affiliated with Section 2 and the New York State Public High School Athletic Association, and this is a subscription-based platform. In order to view the events indoors, families will need to purchase a membership. Normally, the membership is $70 for the year, but the district is selling memberships at a discounted rate for $40. The membership will provide access to all of our volleyball games and basketball games, home sectional games, and streaming rights to any NFHS event, both locally and nationwide. Locally, a neighboring school district, Argyle and Granville and Whitehall, are also participating in the NFHS. So your membership will give you streaming rights to any of their contests, plus any contests nationwide that are streamed on the NFHS network. If a family purchases an NFHS membership, the district will also give that family season passes to any of our sporting events as well. So there'd be no fee for your family to enter for home basketball games or sectional games. Any event that has a ticket price within the district, your membership will cover the cost of that as well. This is a really good option for family who are unable to attend games, either due to vaccination status or distance, or grandparents who don't feel comfortable necessarily coming into a school. This then gives them the right to stream and watch the games. All of our indoor games, irregardless of the level, modified, JV, and varsity, will all be streamed through this service. As part of our plan for fall sports, we have maintained our COVID hotline. The telephone number is provided on the slide. If you have any questions regarding our activities or concerns that our COVID protocols are not being followed, please contact that number and we can address your concern. We also have a Google form active on our website that you can complete with any questions or concerns regarding to interscholastic athletics. I went through that fairly quickly. Tried to provide a lot of information for those families that participated last year. A lot of this information is the same, but at this point, I would open it up to any questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat and we can monitor that, or unmute yourself. But before that, I'd certainly open the floor to Coach Capone or Nurse Arlen or Mrs. Dupuy if you have anything else that I neglected to mention during our presentation.
I would just encourage, if you have sports-specific questions, to reach out to the coaches. Mr. Cook did provide the email. I'm not 100% sure of which coaches are on here. I can answer any cross-country questions, but if you do have some sports-specific questions, it might be better off to reach out to the coach. I mean, I can try to answer them, but it might be a better resource for you. Jacob says, will we be given Hartford masks? Are we getting masks again this year, Mr. Cook?
We have reordered Hartford Tanager masks. They are on back order, as is seemingly everything right now. So we're hoping to have them for the first day of school. If you do not have a mask for an indoor event, if you're a volleyball participant and you need a mask that first day, please reach out to us ahead of time. Let us know. We'll make sure that we have one for you that day. Any other questions that we can help answer people with?
Let's see. So Karen said,
go ahead.
Karen says, which one is the JV and modified coach for volleyball? The JV is Coach Brialt and the modified is Coach Strong. What is the daily Raptor screening? You want to address that?
The daily Raptor screening is all parents and guardians should receive an email starting on September 7th, understanding that's not the first day of school, that's just a test day, with a series of COVID questions just as an additional layer of protection to ensure that your student is feeling healthy that day. That is an optional exercise. It's not required. You just fill that out and send it to the district.
Mr. Cook, I'm sorry. I asked just because most people probably don't know, but I think you do, that Aiden doesn't actually attend Hartford school, even though he's enrolled. So we usually get a message every day so he can attend school. You know, how's he feeling, all that. They send it via text. All that. Is that similar thing? And would we receive one separately from Hartford school, or would you have access to that through OCs when we answer those questions for him through that program?
Excellent question. So BOCES, I believe, is using a system called Pinpoint, which is almost identical to the system we're using. So that would be fine. As long as you complete that process, that would be absolutely fine.
Okay, thank you.
So Michelle asked, how do you purchase a subscription? We'll be putting out information on how to purchase a subscription within the next couple of days. It'll most likely be contacting the district. We have a number of user codes that once you purchase a subscription, we'll send you the user codes, and that'll gain you access. One thing that I neglected to mention with the NFHS is that the NFHS holds all the streaming rights, both to sectionals, regionals, and state level competitions throughout New York State. So, if you're a big basketball fan and we have a local team that's playing in the New York State Championships, if you purchase the streaming service through Hartford, that gains you access to watch all the New York State basketball championships online. And also, if you want your big high school football fan, you can watch high school football in Alabama and California and Wyoming. All of those are available to you. So more information will be provided for that as we get closer to the season.
Does anybody have any soccer questions? I may be able to answer some of them.
Yeah, actually, I was just wondering, I'm not sure who said that, but how soon would we know if the modified program filled up or not?
I anticipate that we'll have enough student athletes.
Okay, perfect.
I do. And even if we don't have, typically we try to run a program with like 15 to ensure that we have enough student athletes. We will do something with our modified program if we don't have that number of student athletes.
And I'm just figuring, Mr. Foster is for modified, correct? And Coach Sutliff is varsity?
Correct.
Yes. The modified can also have ninth graders on it. So if there's a heavy number of ninth graders signed up to play varsity that may not, get much playing time at the varsity level, they can play down at the modified level. And we traditionally are able to, fill up the modified team because of that reason too.
And something else, on the website, where you can sign up to get like text notifications. I think I'm signed up right now for yours, but it says I think each individual coach has one. Is that right?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, so a lot of the coaches do use the Remind system. It's a great form of communication. I know for soccer there isn't one set up currently at the varsity level. Mr. Foster is a new coach. I'm not quite sure what he's going to use, but it is a great platform to use, and I do recommend it for the coaches to use for communication purposes. If you ever have any questions, if you're signed up for the athletics one, you can always message me. I respond every day, as soon as I get those messages to the athletics ones there too. So, but They won't not necessarily have one set up. Are there tryouts for JV? Karen asked. Their JV varsity tries out together, and then the coaches make a determination based off of that tryout if they're going to be on the JV or varsity level, or if once again a ninth grader is more suited to be down at the modified level. So yes, there is tryouts for JV. Yes. Ray says varsity soccer has a Google Classroom page that the coach shares information on, and a lot of the coaches use Google Classroom pages also. So that's another platform.
So I'll certainly hang out for a bit. I know Mr. Capone and Mrs. Dupuy will as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat or unmute yourself, and we'll do the best we can to answer your questions. If you do have a specific sport question, you can certainly ask us. We'll do our best to answer it, but then we might direct you to the coach though as well.
Karen, the JV varsity tryouts are August 23rd from 8 to 10. I think Mr. Cook had that in the presentation. So that would be the first day that she should attend the tryouts.
Hi, Callan. Mrs. Cook, do you have any questions? The first Emmeline, Mr. Capone asked about cross country, the August 23rd, but I forgot the time.
9 o'clock would be our first official practice.
Thanks, Emily.
Yes. Hopefully you've been running.
Better be able to beat me, Emmeline.
So Mustang Sally, the first practice for soccer is August 23rd at 8 a.m.
Thanks, Andy. It's Nick Severance. My
Oh,
wife
I
thinks
know.
it's
I'm just
funny
gonna
to
call.
leave that
I'm gonna
up
call you Mustang Sally till your kids graduate. I think that's awesome.
there. That's good. My wife says I need to leave it up there. She gets a kick out of it when everybody talks to me on Google Meets and has to call me out by it. So it'll be there.
Well, I was a little disappointed when I didn't see it first pop up. I'm like, "Where's Mustang Sally?" Oh, there he is.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. So we'll hang out for a little bit if anybody has any other questions. If not, I again appreciate your time. I think these virtual meetings are working out well. We seem to have really good participation. We're really looking forward to starting our fall 2021 season.
Gary Birch. 3 girls that I know of are signed up for soccer. Obviously, I'm certain they'll probably play modified, and I'll have Kaylin get the ball rolling with friends in her class to get some numbers up for soccer.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. They're going to show up on the 23rd, right?
Yes.
Did they, Coach Capone, do they have to do a play-in for that?
They're going to have to do the mixed competition stuff. Usually Mr. Sullivan does that on the first day. They got to go through the test, but they have to be approved through the nurse's office. So make sure that, they are signed up with a nurse and medically approved. Then they have to do the mile run and the sit and reach and the typical tests.
Typical stuff. Yeah. I don't think we mentioned that at all during the meeting. So for those who have, doing mixed sports, we should probably mention that.
Yeah.
All right.
I did get an email from Elisa about the doctor forms and stuff for the some of the girls. So it just
good.
Yeah, I'm working on getting all the mixed comp forms. I'm waiting on a couple things to send another fax out to Dr. Solomon, but I don't see it as a problem getting them signed off.
Thanks, Elisa. Gary, August 23rd, what time? Sorry, I missed part of that.
8 a.m.
Yeah.
8 a.m. Okay.
8 a.m.
I will be in Atlantic City that week for union business or work, so I won't be around, but I'll make sure she gets there.
Oh, I'm sure they'll get there. We'll see them.
And I'm sure it's union business.
It actually is. It's not the most pleasant thing to go through. It's a lot of classroom stuff, but it's a fun trip. Not complaining.
No. All right. I'm just going to stop the recording.